Okay, hi class. This is Miss Chauncey, and as I promised, I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to read your information that you needed to do your two-column notes for your science. We're working on blood and lymph, which is this one here. You guys should all have this. So what I'm doing is I'm actually going to read through it. So this way you guys can follow along. You can pause this if you need to, make your two-column notes, add whatever you need to it, highlight. But let's go ahead and read it so this way, those of you who have some difficulties with the words, you at least know how to say them. Okay, let's go. First page. While riding your bike through the neighborhood, you take a tumble and scrape your knee. Your knee begins to sting and you notice blood oozing from the wound. You go inside to clean the wound. As you do, you wonder, just what is blood? Blood. Blood may seem like just a plain red liquid, but it is actually a complex tissue that has several parts. Blood is made up of four components: plasma, red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. Just note, guys, this is in bold, so you want to highlight this. About 45% of the volume of blood is cells. The rest is plasma. Plasma. Most of the materials transported into the blood travel into the plasma. Plasma is the liquid part of the blood. Water makes up 90% of plasma. The other 10% is dissolved materials. Plasma carries nutrients such as glucose, fats, vitamins, and minerals. Plasma also carries chemical messengers that direct body activities such as the uptake of glucose for your cells. In addition, many waste products by cell processes are carried away by plasma. Protein molecules give plasma its yellow color. There are three groups of plasma proteins. One group helps to regulate the amount of water in blood. The second group, which is produced by white blood cells, helps fight disease. The third group of proteins interacts with platelets to form blood clots. Page 2. Red blood cells. Without red blood cells, your body could not use the oxygen that you breathe in. Red blood cells take up oxygen in the lungs and deliver it to the cells elsewhere in the body. Red blood cells, like most blood cells, are produced in bone marrow. Under a microscope, these cells look like discs which pinched in centers. Because of their pinched shape, red blood cells are thin in the middle and can bend and twist easily. The flexibility enables them to squeeze through the narrow capillaries. A red blood cell is made mostly of hemoglobin, which is the iron-containing protein that binds chemically to oxygen molecules. When hemoglobin combines with oxygen, the cells become bright red. Without oxygen, the cells are dark red. Thus, blood leaving the heart through the aorta is bright red, whereas blood returning from the body to the heart through veins is dark red. Hemoglobin picks up oxygen in the lungs and releases it as the body travels through the capillaries in the rest of the body. Hemoglobin also picks up some of the carbon dioxide produced by cells. However, most of the carbon dioxide is carried by plasma. The blood carries the carbon dioxide to the lungs, where it is released from the body. Mature red blood cells have no nuclei. Without a nucleus, a red blood cell cannot produce or repair itself. Mature red blood cells live only about 120 days. Every second, about 2 million red blood cells in your body die. Fortunately, your bone marrow produces new red blood cells at the same rate. White blood cells. Like red blood cells, white blood cells are produced in the bone marrow. White blood cells are the body's disease fighters. Some white blood cells recognize disease-causing organisms, such as bacteria, and alert the body that it has been invaded. Other white blood cells produce chemicals to fight the invaders. Still others surround and kill the organisms. White blood cells are different from red blood cells in several different ways. There are fewer of them, only about one white blood cell for every 500 to 1,000 red blood cells. White blood cells are also larger than red blood cells. In addition, white blood cells contain nuclei. Most white blood cells can live for months or even years. Okay, guys, next page. We are now on page 94. Platelets. When you scraped your knee, blood oozed out of the wound. After a short time, however, a blood clot formed, stopping the blood flow. Platelets are cell fragments that play an important part in forming blood clots. When a blood cell is cut, platelets collect and stick to the vessel at the site of the wound. The platelets release chemicals that start a chain reaction. This series of reactions eventually produces a protein called fibrin. Fibrin gets its name from the fact that it weaves a net of tiny fibers across the cut in the blood vessel. You look at figure 12 to see how fiber net traps the blood cells. As more and more platelets and blood cells become trapped in the net, a blood clot forms. A scab is dried blood clot in the skin surface. Now remember, check out, this is your figure 12 that they reference, so make sure you look at that. Blood types. If a person loses a blood type, either from a wound or during surgery, he or she may be given a blood transfusion. A blood transfusion is the transfer of blood from one person to another. Most early attempts at blood transfusion failed, but no one knew why until early 1900s. At the time, Karl Landster, an Austrian-American physician, tried mixing blood samples from pairs of people. Sometimes the two blood samples blended smoothly. In other cases, however, the red blood cells clumped together. This clumping accounted for the failure of many blood transfusions. If clumping occurs within the body, it clogs the capillaries and may lead to death. Okay, guys, page 95. Marker molecules. Landster went on to discover that there are 4 major types of blood: A, B, AB, and O. Blood types are determined by proteins known as marker molecules that are in the red blood cells. If your blood type is A, you have the red marker. If your blood type is B, you have the B marker. People with type AB blood have both A and B markers. People with O-type blood have neither A nor B. Which leads me to an interesting question. Do any of you know what type of blood that you have? I do. I made sure I knew what my sons had too, which is kind of an interesting thing to see what they had. If they had mine or if they had their dad's. So curious if anybody knows what they have for blood type. Okay, getting back to 95 with marker molecules. Second paragraph. Your plasma contains clumping proteins that recognize red blood cells with foreign markers. Not yours? Well, make those cell clumps together. For example, if you have blood type A, your blood contains clumping proteins that act against cells with B markers. If you receive a blood transfusion of type B blood, your clumping proteins will make the foreign type B cells clump together. Safe transfusions. Landster's work led to a better understanding of transfusions. The marker molecules on your red blood cell determine your blood type and the type of the blood that you can safely receive in transfusions. A person with type A blood can receive transfusions of either type A or type O blood. Neither of these blood types has marker Bs. Thus, they would be recognized as foreign by the clumping proteins in type A blood. A person with type AB blood can receive all blood types in transfusion because type AB blood has no clumping proteins. Figure 13 shows transfusions are safe for each blood type. Now, figure 13 people are at the bottom of that page, page 95. If you ever receive a transfusion, your blood type will be checked first. Then donated blood that you can safely receive will be found. This process is called cross-matching. You may have heard a doctor on the television show give the order to type and cross. The doctor wants to find out the type of blood the patient has and then cross-match it with donated blood. Okay, guys, moving on to page 96. Rh factor. Landster also discovered the presence of another protein or red blood cells, which he called Rh factors. About 85% of people he tested had this protein, and about 15% lacked it. Like the AB, and O blood types, the presence of Rh factor is determined by a marker on the red blood cell. If your blood type is Rh positive, you have the Rh marker. If your blood type is Rh negative, you have the marker on the cells. If you are Rh negative and ever received Rh positive blood, you may have developed Rh clumping proteins in your plasma. This situation is potentially dangerous. Lymphatic system. As blood travels through the capillaries in the cardiovascular system, some of the fluid leaks out. It moves through the walls and the capillaries and into surrounding tissues. This fluid carries materials that the cells and the tissues need. After bathing the cells, this fluid moves into the body's drainage system, called the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system is a network of vein-like vessels that returns the fluid to the bloodstream. The lymphatic system acts something like rain gutters after a rainstorm, carrying the excess fluid away. Okay, guys, number 97. Lymph. Once a fluid is inside the lymphatic system, it is called lymph. Lymph consists of water and dissolved materials such as glucose. It also contains some white blood cells that left the capillaries. The lymphatic system has no pump, so lymph moves slowly. Lymphatic vessels, which are part of the cardiovascular system, connect to large veins in the chest. Lymph empties into these veins, and fluid once again becomes part of the blood plasma. Lymph nodes. A lymph flows through the lymphatic system. It passes through small knobs of tissue called lymph nodes. The lymph nodes filter lymph. trapping bacteria and other disease-causing microorganisms in the fluid. When the body is fighting an infection, the lymph nodes enlarge. If you ever had swollen glands when you've been sick, you actually have had swollen lymph nodes. Okay, so that is all that we had to read. You guys need to make sure you have your 2-column notes that Mr. Hare has given you. And if you can do any of the assessments, you know what, feel free. It would be kind of interesting to know. List some of the 4 components of the blood. Identify whether each is a cell or a part of a cell or a liquid. Okay, guys, I hope that this is helpful to you. We will try it this week and see if it works. And if this works, I will continually do this and try to post it hopefully by Tuesday or Wednesday the following week so you can listen. If you have any questions, let me know. And for those of you who are on baseball, remember, do your homework before you go to baseball practice. All right, guys, have a great night. I'll talk to you later. See you tomorrow.